So a few weeks ago, I had the Act Man on my stream to have a casual chat about wokeness in video games. He denied that women in games are becoming uglier, he denied that games are becoming less masculine, and he denied that games are becoming more woke. A few days later, he made a video making fun of the idea that there was wokeness in games, and got absolutely bodied by his followers. Finally, I invited the Act Man to come back on my stream and have an actual debate, and of course he pussied out and canceled. So whatever, y'all, I'm done with the guy. I'm just glad he finally exposed himself as the homo that he is. But the real thing I want to talk about in this video is this simple question. Are games becoming more woke? If you have your eyes open and have played more than one game in your life, it's pretty obvious they are. But just in case anybody disagrees with this simple fact, I'm making a video to show you the most egregious examples of the woke cancer infecting video games. So first off, we need to define woke, because they always say that we can't. Merriam-Webster defines it very clearly. Woke: politically liberal or progressive as in matters of racial and social justice, especially in a way that is considered unreasonable or extreme. Wokeness contains false ideologies within it: Marxism, critical race theory, intersectionality, and many others. But what is wokeness really about? At the bottom of their hearts, woke people hate anything that is good, beautiful, and true. Woke people hate beautiful women. They hate masculine men. They hate healthy sexuality. They hate normal people. You see this last week with the trans creative director at BioWare designing a character creator where this is the biggest butt you can have and this is the biggest chest you can have on a woman. It's obvious the people who made this hate attractiveness in females and in males. Another thing woke people hate is diversity. Say what? Come again, Andrew? Isn't the whole woke movement built upon creating more diversity, equity, and inclusion? Well, that's the genius of it. Woke people say they love representation and equality, while only pushing for acceptance by a small group of people. When they talk about equality, I like to ask them this question. Are white men included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No. Are religious people included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No. Are big-breasted, beautiful women included in the woke movement's definition of diversity? No. So it turns out woke people actually hate diversity because they despise these groups of people and leave them out of games. To prove to you that these people hate white men, the CEO of Sweet Baby Inc., a video game consultancy, recently said this. Also, I don't know why games featuring human characters are still so white and male. Like, imagine the CEO of Microsoft being like, why are people in games so black now? So there's an obvious insane double standard here. This broken, childless woman also said this: pay me to shoot down your white male lead game ideas. But it gets worse. Black Girl Gamers, a racist woke organization, has publicly stated this: we will not work with white mid. Imagine any company saying that. Imagine a company just saying, nope, if you're black, we won't serve you. Dani Ladonders, who was a game developer on this game called Validate, and I think she worked for Ubisoft, specifically said in a video that she doesn't hire white men. Just to go even further down the rabbit hole, Ubisoft has a mentorship program right now where they said they will not consider you for it if you are a white man. So guys, as it turns out, the people who rally the hardest against racism and sexism are actually the most racist and sexist. Oops! This clip from a PragerU video also does a really good job of explaining woke thinking.
Critical race theory begins from the assumption that racism occurs in all interactions. Imagine you own a shop and two customers enter at the same time, one white and one black. Who do you help first? If you help the black person first, critical race theory would say you did so because you don't trust black people to be left alone in your store. That's racist. If you help the white person first instead, critical race theory would say you did so because you think blacks are second-class citizens. That's racist too. That's critical race theory. It can find racism in anything, even if it has to read your mind to do it.
So basically, even if you try to not be racist, according to them, you're being racist. Even if you try to not be sexist, you're being sexist. This is why these people are so useless and evil, is because everything you do, according to them, is racist. Always, because you're a white man. But let's be honest, guys, at the end of the day, this is about power, right? They think by calling you racist or homophobic, they have some kind of power over you. But the joke's on them. Racist and homophobe are words we laugh at now, because the people using these words are leftist cowards. You saw the Act Man try to make this statement in one of his recent videos. Oh, I guess everything is woke now, huh? So everything is just woke. This is what's known as a straw man fallacy, and it isn't actually an argument. If you lived in a town that was flooding and somebody said, "Why are you using the word flood so much? I'm so tired of hearing that word." Well, we use the word flood because it describes what is happening right now. More importantly, why are you defending gay-ass propaganda in video games? All right, so I hope I've done a good job of explaining generally what wokeism is. Now, where do we see it in games? Wokeism shows up in games in at least 6 possible ways. Number 1, making female characters more ugly. Number 2, replacing male characters with female characters in order to virtue signal. Number 3, removing masculinity and masculine characters from games. Number 4, blindly inserting gay, black, and trans characters in order to virtue signal. Number 5, changing historical events to push contemporary political messages. Number 6, softening, watering down, and removing anything controversial or edgy from games. So we are going to look at these 6 key ways that games have been wokeified, and we're going to track the increase of all of these things in games over time. Before we get into it, just to give you a larger sweep of the problem here, I tracked the 20 most played or critically acclaimed games from 2004, 2014, and 2024. You can check my math below and see the games I picked for each year. 2004, we have games like Halo 2, Dragon Quest 8, Metal Gear Solid 3. Then for 2024, we have games like Modern Warfare 3, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, Elden Ring, because it's still one of the most played games, etc., etc. I then showed in the blue bar if the game only allowed you to play as a man, then the pink bar is if the game lets you play as a woman or gives you a choice between man or woman or lets you play as a trans character. And I think this graph lets you see exactly what is wrong with the game industry. As we got away from playing male characters in games, the general quality of video games went down. And I hope that's clear in this graph. All right, so getting into specific games, let's talk about 12 games that went woke over time. The Last of Us. The first Last of Us game from 2013 was a heartfelt and masculine journey for its main character, Joel. It was one of the best-selling games and regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. With The Last of Us 2 in 2020, the director took a different approach. Joel is killed within the first hour of the game because, men are bad. He is replaced with Ellie, who flaunts her broken sexuality and is in a relationship with a woman. I honestly didn't mind the first half of the game, but the last half is disgusting. For the last 20 hours of the game, you're expected to play as Abby, Ellie's mortal enemy. She's a really mannish and disgusting girl boss character, and there's a nasty sex scene with her cuck boyfriend. So the first game was about masculinity, bravery, honor, defending a young girl, and the second game is about lesbians, being a cuck, and mannish chicks with big arms. This game hits woke checkboxes number 1, number 2, number 3, and 4. Gears of War. The Gears of War games in the 2000s were always about masculinity, a common purpose, and brotherhood. It's a very male-focused story, so it was odd when the cucks at Microsoft made Kate Diaz the main character of the story now. Instead of exploring themes of brotherhood and duty like the game did before, since 2016 the game is primarily about femininity, sisterhood, and when our periods happen. So yeah, Gears of War went woke and it sucks now. Woke checkboxes number 2, 3, 4, and 6 have all been hit. Saints Row. The original Saints Row was very similar to GTA, but instead of being by yourself, you were part of a gang that helps you rise to power. With iconic characters like Johnny Gat, Shaundi, Julius, and others, Saints Row 2 is incredibly edgy and hilarious. You buy prostitutes, kill bums, etc. Well, the Saints Row reboot in 2022 seemed to think it was a good idea to replace every single character from this celebrated series with a bunch of gay dudes with their shirts off, ugly lesbians, girl bosses, and trans people. Like, huh? Nobody has ever understood their audience worse than whoever took control of the Saints Row reboot. The fans were noticeably upset when this stuff started to leak, and instead of Volition changing, they doubled down. And now the studio is closed. So as is often said, you go woke, you go broke. Halo. Halo was one of the games that got me back into video games in 2004, so I was really stoked to see the woke mind virus taking it over now. Here's Cortana in Halo 4. Here's Cortana in Halo Infinite. Yeah. They also disabled party chat by default in Halo Infinite because, people are soft and can't handle reality now. They killed off funny characters like Avery Johnson. Also, if you look through the armor skins available to you in Halo Infinite, it's full of this kind of garbage like International Women's Day, Trans Visibility Day colors, Black Lives Matter. Like, where is my Master Chief draped in the American flag? Where is my Master Chief with a Trump helmet? Like, for some reason they left that out. Why do y'all think that is? And again, talk about just not understanding your audience at all. Do they really think edgelord Halo dudes want to be like, oh dude, sick International Women's Day skin, brother? Battlefield. So Sweden is overwhelmingly filled with homosexual men. I've established this before. But a broken clock is still right twice a day. In the early 2000s, DICE Entertainment made a few incredible Battlefield games, but in 2018, they done goofed. They took what had been, up until this point, a pretty realistic and accurate war game, and they added women, black girl bosses, and lesbians for no reason. Not a single woman fought on the front lines in World War II in the Western Front. But that wasn't going to stop the gay men of Sweden, so they put girl bosses in Battlefield 5 just to piss you off. I saw an article last week that DICE is completely changing directions and basically begging for us to come back. It's pretty awesome, actually. They keep talking about how Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 and how they learned their lesson and are going to change now. But it's too bad because I'm done with the Battlefield games and will never play new ones. Wolfenstein. I'll get right to the point with this one. Wolf 2014 is a very masculine, very based, very pro-America, and it's an awesome game. Wolfenstein 2017 is a woke abortion full of communist propaganda, Marxist messages, feminism, and inclusion. I also found Wolf 2 to just not be nearly as good of a game gameplay-wise as the 2014 reboot. The 2014 reboot and the Old Blood DLC are both really solid games without basically any political propaganda. It started getting really bad in Wolfenstein 2, but then it hit an absolute fever pitch with Wolfenstein Youngblood. Guys, watch some clips of this game and you'll see what I mean. They replaced BJ Blazkowicz, an absolute unit and Chad and badass, with his two daughters. And they need to play cards and write in their blog about it the first time they kill somebody. Like, dude, come on. Also, the gameplay was just really, really bad. I tried the game. It was just an absolutely terrible game. It's full of feminism, communism. It's an abortion. Suicide Squad. If we consider this game to be a continuation of the Arkham games, then they absolutely butchered one of the greatest masculine characters of all time, Batman. In 2009, 2011, and 2015, Rocksteady had built up a reputation for making incredible Batman games. Really great story, unique gameplay mechanics, and I would say Arkham City still holds up as one of the greatest video games of all time. So what did they do? Well, they butchered the gameplay, of course, and turned it into the most generic, sad, third-person slop shooter you've ever played. They replaced all the characters with lesbians, girl bosses, and minorities. And of course, there's all kinds of queer inclusion flags and equality flags everywhere in this game. And of course, white men have to be killed because we hate white men because white men are the worst. Companies like Rocksteady have destroyed our favorite franchise, and they all deserve to go out of business. Think about it. We could have gotten a fourth Arkham game from these guys, and instead we got this communist slop. Dragon Age. If you've played the first three Dragon Age games, you know they're full of heterosexual romance, attractive outfits for sexy women, and tons of edgy, funny, and great storylines. Well, anytime the blue hairs see the boys enjoying themselves, you know troons and lesbians are going to show up and ruin this. Dragon Age Veilguard is shaping up to be the biggest woke abortion of the year. As I said earlier, this is the biggest breast and butt you can have on a woman in the game. While this is a small thing, you know this level of insanity is going to propagate itself through the whole game. So we're looking at just a small detail, but small details add up and show you the general direction of a video game. Woketal Combat. I am not intimately familiar with the Mortal Kombat series right now, but I get messages about it a lot. Apparently, characters that were once attractive women have been downgraded into ugly, boxy outfits. Edgy and offensive storylines have been removed, and gay depravity is being copy and pasted throughout the game now, and nobody wants it. Zelda. This one is very short. The Zelda games have always had a male protagonist, but of course, woke Nintendo had to ruin that. The new Zelda game stars Princess Zelda because she don't need no man. She can do everything herself. Fallout New Vegas, as I've said many times, is one of the edgiest and best games of all time. I mean, you can roleplay as the bad guys if you want. In Fallout 3, you can literally enslave kids. But of course, as all woke games do, because people's fifis got hurt, they have to remove this stuff. What is there to say about Fallout 76 that hasn't been said already? It is a woke, bland cash grab with loads and loads of dull, inoffensive characters with absolutely no perspective on anything. Oh, and it's full of gay depravity in every nook and cranny, with tons of gay flags everywhere. Spider-Man 2. Despite MJ being smoking hot in every piece of Spider-Man media for 30 years, it turns out the broken gay Satanists who work at Sucker Punch know better than us chuds. In Spider-Man 2018, Mary Jane was unattractive, and then they made her even uglier in Spider-Man 2. What makes this worse is if you look directly at her huge, ugly chin, you can see that she was meant to look like the lead girl boss writer from the games. All of these evil people just want to self-insert themselves in games, it seems. Instead of, maybe making something that their audience wants. Watch Synthetic Man's video on Spidey 2 if you want a full write-up on all the gay nonsense. But Spider-Man 2 is one of the gayest and grossest games of all time. It's full of true nonsense. It's really just a completely unenjoyable mess. All right, next up, we're going to talk about 3 games that got woke remakes. If you ever wanted to catch these people with their hands in the cookie jar, the best place to do it is to show you how they love to change old games. Modernize these games. Let's make them more inclusive so people's feelings don't get hurt. The first example is Mass Effect. While I'm sure there's tons of examples of this game being wokeified, the most egregious one was the downplaying of the attractiveness of women in the game. There is a distinct scene where Shepard looks at Miranda's butt and enjoys it, and they removed this from the game. Dead Space. Dead Space is another game that got a woke remaster, and you can find a Steam thread with all of the changes that they made. Everything from changing the race of people, changing posters on the walls to fit with current day leftist ideologies, making women more ugly in the game, making certain characters lesbian, etc., etc. Just this month, we got a third woke remaster of the game Dead Rising. This was originally one of my favorite games on the Xbox 360 and actually was an exclusive to it. I played it in 2023 and can confirm the game is super edgy and wonderful. Apparently, they took out a bunch of edgy dialogue, they took out parts of the game making fun of communists, and I can already guarantee you that any female character that was attractive in the game, they have now made less attractive. So moving on, let's go to new games that came out from 2000 to 2024 that have been woke from the beginning of their creation. We got Apex, Dustborn, Concord, Star Wars Outlaws, Flintlock Siege of Dawn, and Forspoken. And I know there's many, many more, but these are just the ones that I'm familiar with. Isn't it interesting how the woke mob has seen the fundamental error they were making in changing old beloved games and characters and making them gay? So they had this amazing idea. Let's make new games that are woke from the start and they won't notice. Sadly, we did. All of these games on here are full of tedious political messages. All of these games are watered down, sanitized slop without anything edgy or funny or controversial in them. And Apex is about the only one on here that wasn't a complete flop sales-wise. All of these games flopped. Nobody wanted to play them, and I truly hope from the bottom of my heart that the people who were making these games quit the industry and go do something else, like work at Starbucks, just do something else. All right, so if you look on the chart here, you can see the 15 or so games I've been tracking, and you can see a precipitous increase in leftist messages and communist messages and in woke messages increasing in all of these games over time. You are burying your head in the sand and denying obvious evidence if you continue to deny this garbage. Any leftist cuck who continues to deny the obvious wokeifying of games is clearly not an honest person worth listening to. But for the cherry on top, isn't it a shame that we actually know why all this is happening? And it's because DEI companies, agencies, and consultancies have been consulting on almost every single one of the games I've mentioned above. Sweet Baby Inc. is a consultancy that pushes leftist messaging in games and has become a pariah. Any game that this company touches fails immediately. Spider-Man 2, Dustborn, Concord, Star Wars Outlaws, The Crew Motorfest, Alan Woke 2. With the exception of Spider-Man 2, almost every game here has been a huge failure. But it doesn't end there. We know huge companies like Ubisoft and Activision and other companies that have huge diversity, equity, and inclusion departments to push all of this satanic gay stuff into the games we love. We know Activision opened its DEI branch in 2022. We know Sweet Baby Inc. opened in 2018. All of these horrible trends we hate so much correlate directly to these activists starting these companies. All right, guys, so in closing, if you still deny the obvious wokeification of games, you're lying, and I think you know it. And I hope one day you realize you can wake up and be honest. But to deny the obvious trends of games towards woke ideologies is just delusional at this point. And one more thought in closing here. Why do you guys think woke ideology goes so directly against us gamers? And I think it's because, fellas, video games have always been edgy. Video games, let's be honest, have historically been aimed at men. So the things men like and get excited about is naturally going to dominate games. The whole idea of being overly sensitive about video game content is just such a cancerous perspective, and I hope it dies out. Instead of "Make America Great Again," I think I want a shirt that says "Make video games edgy again." Look, I'm a Christian, but I don't want every game I play to have some kind of Christian message in it. I just want games to be what they've always been. Edgy, fun, a place to mentally escape from the world. And it's woke ideology that is directly attacking this right now. And these people need to be stopped because they're trying to take our present, current day shitty politics and they're trying to insert it in games. And we just want games to stay what they've always been. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Bye.